So my name is Revelator Aggregator, the Revelator Aggregator, and welcome to my channel. This is my inaugural video, and just in brief, the purpose of this channel is going to be to explain and collect and aggregate various items of high strangeness. I'm not sure if that's the appropriate term, that I've stumbled across in my researches. I've been looking into quote-unquote conspiracies for many years now, and I've learned a lot along the way. It's totally changed my worldview and brought me back to a belief in the saving power and the divinity of Jesus Christ. I fell away when I was a teenager, a young man, a teenager, from the faith I was raised in. I was never a total apostate. I just essentially was a deist. I've since learned the error of my ways. I couldn't figure out why the people that ran the world were so evil. And then it finally dawned on me that they were a bunch of Satanists and Luciferians, which only reinforced my belief in God and the positive side of things. So I also am a firm believer in the Genesis 6 paradigm, the Book of Enoch paradigm, about the fallen angels transgressing their first estate, coming down into this dimensional reality and having intercourse with human women, trying to raise up nations of their own in defiance of God, uppercase G, God. So it's just a smattering of what I'll be dealing with on this channel. Also want to get into, initially I'd like to get into why I think Jesus was born on 9/11. 9/11 is the Jewish New Year. Its theory is that September 11th was the day of creation, when God recreated the earth in Genesis 1:2. I'm also a believer in the gap theory of creation, which says that there was an indeterminate gap of time in between Genesis 1:1 and Genesis 1:2, and that God had already judged Lucifer and the fallen angels prior to creating the world a second time, or recreating the world a second time. Anyway, the idea is God created the world on September the 11th. The fruit was already on the trees, so that would mean it was Indian summer, fall, harvest time when the world was recreated. So it being the new year, to the evil people that temporarily run the world, that has a lot of significance and power, the energy surrounding it, the idea of it, plus taking the birthday of the God-man and turning it from a time of celebration to a time of despair would be just like them to invert something pure and wonderful and joyful and good and turn it into something awful and evil and sad and bad. So that's why you see so many bad things associated with September the 11th, like the assassination of that socialist by the CIA down in South America, I think in '73, was his name Allende, something like that, I don't remember, on September the 11th. Of course, 9/11 2001. Most recently, there was Hurricane Florence, which hit the Carolina coast, or started to come in and all that on September the 11th, 2018. And of course we could get in, and we will get into it in a later video, the geoengineering and the weaponizing of weather, and basically how I believe they can superheat the ionosphere, do something with the ionosphere to create pockets of high and low pressure to steer hurricanes around, amongst other things. So just a few thoughts about what's going on to get us started. Also, apparently there's some interesting stuff in Revelation, the Revelation of John, which gets into the whole theory of Jesus's birthday being an allegory for Jesus's birthday being on September the 11th. So it's just stuff we'll get into on this channel. I've also recently stumbled across, not to be attention deficit here, but I've also recently stumbled across and renewed my interest in the whole Paul McCartney being sacrificed by the Illuminati or the Tavistock Institute or whoever, and replaced with a double in 1966, and the double potentially being a son of Aleister Crowley, the whole thing being, and also Paul McCartney very well, if he was killed, it may have happened on 9/11/66, interestingly enough, either 9/11 or 11/9 '66, but more probably I think it was 9/11/66. You got the whole Sergeant Pepper drum thing where you stick a mirror perpendicular to it, and it says 11/9 he die or something like that. Well, over there, the understanding they invert the month and the day differently than we write dates over here. But in any event, just an interesting tie-in. But I was always a huge Beatles fan, and I read a book, The Walrus Was Paul, I think it was called, that didn't come down hard either way, but I thought it was interesting. And then I kind of forgot about it. And then years later, I started getting into, for some reason, the algorithm on YouTube started giving me these Paul is dead videos, and I went down that rabbit trail. So we're going to have a lot of interesting things to talk about on this channel. Again, don't judge me, this is my first video, but I hope to present a lot of interesting information. God bless you all. Jesus Christ saves, and stay positive.